To the final segment of the show for today. Dr. LMadu is talking about the peaceful coexistence of Christians and Muslims in Africa, and he's given us a lot of information that perhaps many people are not aware of or indeed even know about. And of course, Dr. LMadu, let's pick up in reference to what you were talking about the last time and move forward.
Yeah, I've talked about, religious tolerance in Africa and show some examples, from the 60s, Africans elected leaders who were in from their religion in a predominantly, religious state, some of them. So that's very significant because people always thought Africans were intolerant. Now, look at the conflicts in Africa. For example, you see what's happening in Mali. Oh, people say, oh yeah, it's Islamists. Of course, yeah, they are fighting under wearing an Islamic toga. But people don't understand it's not really the problem there. The problem is that those Tuaregs, who are part of the Berber ethnic group, majority Berber ethnic group, are fighting for power in Mali. Mali is dominated by the Bambara ethnic group, okay? And those Tuaregs feel disenfranchised politically. They've been fighting for long for some power and autonomy where they live. So people see it as, religious. Oh yeah, they wear this Islam. No. They are fighting under that toga, but the real problem is struggle for power in Mali. Okay, look at the problem in Nigeria. Okay, we have the Boko Haram, who've been throwing bombs all over. They call themselves Muslims. But you cannot find any Nigerian who believes that. Everybody knows that that Boko Haram is a front for political power. Okay, those who were in favor of Jonathan's government being from the south and couldn't fight it legitimately, openly, are funding these people to keep causing problems.
So that he cannot make any kind of progress.
Exactly, so they make the country ungovernable. Most people in the country know that, okay? These are not really an Islamic movement. It's a political movement under, the rubric of, Islamic movement. No, it is not.
That's a cover for what they're trying to do.
Exactly.
At least they think that that's a cover, but everybody understands.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So people say it's a religious strife in Africa. No, it's not. That's not the problem there. And most of the time when you see that, oh, Muslims are killing Christians here, it's not because of religion, it's for political reasons. I remember in 1966, a lot of Igbo people in Nigeria were slaughtered in northern Nigeria. So people say, oh, no, it was, the Muslims killing the Christian Igbos. No, it's a political movement at that time for power struggle. Eventually, the army took over, which is Muslim-dominated. Everybody saw it clear. It wasn't because of religion. It was political purposes. Sudan, yeah, we had all the Muslims in the north fighting the Christians in the south. No, that's not the problem. I understand about, the Sharia law that the presidents of Sudan wanted to impose on the south and all this. Yeah, that was clear. But the conflict was simply between the non-Arabized southern Sudanese, okay, and the Arabs and the Arabized northern Sudanese. That's what that's the conflict.
And so it's not between Islamic and Islam and Christianity, but between these two ethnic groups under the cover.
Absolutely. Exactly. That's exactly what the problem is. It was between the non-Arabized Sudanese, who speak English, and the Arab and Arabized northern Sudanese, because there are black Sudanese in the north who are also Arabized. Okay, that's the essence of that conflict. So people who don't understand will say, oh, it's between Christians and Muslims. That's for propaganda purposes. Anyway, even though there are elements of it involved, because the northern Sudanese leaders, from President Nimeri to President Bashir, imposed Islamic, law, which anyway most people knew wasn't enforceable in the south because of, military reasons. But in the north, it was, it was
exactly without any great opposition.
Exactly, without any opposition. But in the south, they couldn't, make it work because the southerners were armed and very sure that didn't happen. So these are some of the examples people use to say, well, there's religious strife in Africa. No, most Africans will tell you, hey, they're not going to kill their neighbor because of the church or the mosque or the synagogue he or she goes to, but they will kill their neighbor for ethnicity.
Because if you're not of their group, and their group is not in control,
exactly.
and they will do under any cover in order to try to get control of politics.
Even Sudan, we just talked about now, the Arab governments in the north are, doing the same thing they are doing to the non-Arabized Southerners. Okay, most of the blacks in the north, even in Darfur, are majority Muslims. See, that's a typical example. Most of the blacks who live in Darfur are Muslims, but the Arab regimes don't see them as one of them. You understand? They see them as black and part of parcel of the South because they're all the skin color.
Okay? They're different ethnic groups.
Exactly. So people might say, oh, it's the Muslims in Darfur fighting. No, it's simply an Arab, against black people with black skin. That's what that boils down to. So some people will see it differently. So in most countries in Africa, religion has never been an issue for political reasons. It's a vehicle through which politicians try to destabilize in a place when they don't get in power. That's what it boils to most of the time. Most conflicts in Africa boil down to ethnicity and no religion.
If the Christians are in power, one ethnic group, the Muslims also would wish to become in power. And so that's even though they might be under the banner of Christianity and Islam, they are in reality fighting because they are of different ethnic groups more than anything.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Even the example in northern Nigeria, there's a significant number of Christians in northern Nigeria, okay? Now, the majority, Muslim group in the north welcomes them when it also benefits them as part of the north. But tells them, no, they are not Muslims when it doesn't benefit them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
So after the Civil War in 1970, those Christians in the north started seeing themselves differently. That, hey, we are Christians, we are not Muslims, we are not part and parcel of the Muslim north, actually. And that's creating a whole lot of problem in the country now, you see. Because at that time, whenever there's a conflict, all of them unite as northerners. But now those Christians are trying to separate themselves
from the...
because they say, no, we are being used, at times to fight our own fellow Christians in the south because we are northerners. No, they are using this as Islam, as an undercurrent, to fight our brothers when we are the same.
To gain power, Islamic power.
Exactly, and then when they get that power, they kick us out because we are not Muslims. You see, so you can see with what's happening in Darfur and all these places, that the conflict is never religious most of the time. And apart from Africa being the most ecumenical continent in the world, it is also the most religiously tolerant, in the world. I believe that. See, because of some of the examples I've given you now, and also because of the multitude of religions that coexist and cohabitate in that continent without,
any real strife. Underneath these so-called religious strives, you find these ethnic strives of striving for power.
That's correct. Underneath all of them is this ethnic, problem that everybody identifies with, because if you see that family in that household who belong to, Muslim, Christians, all this, when there's problem, they will unite as one ethnic group.
In spite of the difference.
That's correct. In spite of their
sex that they might represent, when they come together, they're all fighting because they are of the same ethnic group.
Exactly.
That's an excellent
that's
point
correct,
of view,
because of that ethnic group.
And I think people need to be aware of that much
not
more.
The religion.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Madu, I think we're ending the end of this show for today. And I just want to thank you again for all of that excellent information. I think because you have the ability to present us with information that sort of throws a different light on some of the issues that are involved in Africa. And so what I simply conclude is that in spite of all the things that we've talked about political development and et cetera in Africa, that again, as you've indicated today, that the most important thing in Africa is the ethnic identification. And those who identify as with certain ethnic groups, they could be any kind of religion, but the most important thing is the ethnic group of which they are affiliated with. And I want to thank you for that information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. Bye-bye.